Hello guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the Real Conversation. So today I have some very bad news and a very good news at the end. We are going to start with how Nigerians have conversations on the internet and why development may elude us as a country. We are also going to touch on the demolition at Sabo in Ikorodu. We'll touch on the rape issue in Lagos, Ikoyi. Then I'm also going to ask you what you can do with 50,000 naira, and the winners, of course, will get 50,000 naira to do the things they say they will do. First off, what happened in Ikorodu? So there was a demolition at Sabo Market in Ikorodu. It happened overnight. I actually lost eggs on my farm. I have some shops in Ikorodu where I sell my eggs, and I lost quite a lot of them. And it was a bit funny to hear the Lagos State government say that they didn't know anything about it. That's a very bad thing, because it then would mean that something is very wrong. Either we have an invasion by a foreign government, or some criminal element or some individual is using the power of the state, the police and all the security forces to make that happen. Either way, whether the government or some individual, that's a bad thing. If that's a government land and government wants to do something different with that land, the government has to communicate to the people. There has to be some form of information to say that we give you 6 months, we give you 3 months notice, you have to leave this place because by this day, this is what we're going to do. And if they did that, then they did not communicate that well enough. So either way, that's a very bad rap on the Lagos State government. So please do better next time, because this has happened with Otodogbami, now it happened with Sabo Market. I'm not saying government should not do what government needs to do, but the government has to communicate better, and they have to make us understand why they are doing what they are doing. Because if you don't see the collective interest of the society, we are only able to see that some people are being deprived of their means of livelihood, until the state can establish that these things they are doing is better for most of us, even though it will affect some of us. I think that's pretty clear enough. So I don't know if you've been following this issue of Ireti Senior Grammar School and Falomo Senior High School students, where some boys basically, as apparently part of their end of school ritual after writing their WAEC exams, one of the things they do is a form of madness where they actually rape and sometimes try to rape fellow students, girls. I think that's unfortunate. It's one of the things that should never happen in a society. I was reading this morning that the Lagos State government is on top of the matter. I read a press statement from the office of the deputy governor. Please, they should make sure that these boys, the punishment that's set to them serves as a deterrent, not just to them and people like them, but to other young people and even not so young people that might be thinking that the body of the woman is just for the taking as long as they can overpower her. Nigeria has a very big challenge with rape, with consent, with sexual harassment, and all the conversations around rape and sexual relations between men and women, and maybe sometimes between maybe not between men and women, sometimes even between men and men, because we've seen situations where some elderly people rape some elderly men rape some younger men. All of these things have to be addressed, and these are teachable moments that we should never miss out on to make corrections happen. More often than not, when things like this happen, we lose the opportunity to learn from it. We lose the opportunity to make others learn from it, to make the state also see what they can do differently. But with respect to Lagos State on this one, so far they've done well. They've apprehended 4 of the boys. I don't remember their names, but I know that they've apprehended 4 of the boys. They also said those 4 boys will help them get the other ones. And big ups to the lady that helped to make sure that this thing did not go unannounced, that helped to bring it to the fore, and also to the men that assisted her to make sure that today we're having a conversation on it, and hopefully there will be a solution that would serve as a deterrent to other people that might be thinking of doing this in the future. Okay, the big national conversation I want to talk about is the fact that, based on the way we have conversations on politics especially, developments will likely elude Nigeria for the foreseeable future. The reason is because we never seem to agree on the basics. E.g., corruption is definitely bad. E.g., it is the responsibility of government and those elected to serve and serve well, not just to their best, but to deliver on what they promised and to make sure that the majority of us are affected positively at the end of their terms. But you see, what we see on social media is, for instance, I voted President Buhari in 2015. I supported him. I was very, very open about it. It was not a secret. And these days, when I try to criticize him, what I get is, but you voted him, and I'm like, but dude, even if you're a barbarian, there should be limits to this barbarism. I voted him, yes, but I still retain the right to criticize him. And then, if somehow I've not even heard a particular bad news, maybe something that the government has done, the same people will be like, you have not said anything. And we somehow find a way to make sure that conversations don't happen, rather than make conversations happen so that we can make change happen. So for instance, recently, I think a day or 2 days ago, the National Assembly that has been getting flack for its budget, the fact that it has not opened its budget, the fact that its budget at 120 billion is too big, everybody all over the world, apart from National Assembly members, agree that the budget of the National Assembly is irrational based on the realities that we have in Nigeria. Not to mention the fact that we are not even in a recession. Something we are going out of it, but the effects are still there. Now, the National Assembly has added 30 billion naira to their budget. Now, if you start a conversation on this, somebody is going to tell you, but why did you do this and why did you do that? We are never going to have development if we don't focus on the real issues. Look at this Lagos State issue that I spoke about just now. Instead of someone to focus on the issue and talk about the issue, this person is coming out to say the people in Lagos State, the people that are tweeting from Lagos are not talking about the issue. Dude, are you going to make it about these people on Twitter that probably are dealing with some other things, or are you going to make it about the people that are actually guilty? As long as somebody reads a blog story or something on Twitter or on Instagram, and the next thing you do is to make it about the person rather than about the issue, people like you are worse problems than politicians, because bad politicians will always have their way, as long as they have some citizens who always find a way to model up the conversation. The more you model up this conversation, the more we will hardly, if not never, have development. I know that some people that do these things do it intentionally, so this video is not as much for those people because it's quite difficult, almost impossible to wake somebody who is pretending to be asleep. But at least those of us that care, those of us that are interested about our collective development, should make sure that when we see these sort of conversations, we immediately refuse to be drawn into things that don't count and focus on things that count. And what counts? Putting the elected on their toes, putting public officers on their toes, always constantly demanding better of government, whether you voted them in or not, whether you voted or not. It is your right as a citizen of Nigeria to always demand better of government. And we must separate our personal biases from our interest in the collective, because it's natural and normal to have your personal bias. Maybe you like a particular politician more than the other, but you must always understand that when it's time to have national conversations that affect all of us, or at least most of us, you have a responsibility to relegate your personal bias. I saw someone saying he's actually very, very excited that there's recession, that he's actually very, very excited that this government is failing because he told people not to vote the government in 2015. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to say you're retarded, but really and truly you're retarded, because if the government fails, it affects you. No matter how rich you are, it affects you, because someone somewhere is going to be disturbing you for money. You have aunties, you have brothers, you have cousins, you have relatives that somehow that money is not affecting, and somehow when things go bad, they will fall on you. So it is our responsibility, it is in our collective interest to make this country work. On that note, I'm currently reading this book by Olusegun Adeniyi. This guy is one of the best writers, at least with respect to political blockbusters in Nigeria. It's a very, very interesting book. I understand that some people have been, they've been creating pirated copies of this book. They've been pirating it. If you are one of those people, please don't do it. Doing something like that is as much as going into someone's shop and collecting everything the person is selling. That's stealing. The fact that you are stealing creative work doesn't make it less of a stealing. It is stealing. So even if somebody has already sent it to you via WhatsApp, make sure to get this book. If you are interested in politics in Nigeria and the intrigues around politics, make sure to get this book. If you are interested in seeing the underbelly and the seamy side of politics in Nigeria, make sure to get this book. One of the things I realized in this book is that when it comes to conversations on who becomes president or who becomes governor, people don't have any conversation about competence or capacity. The predominant conversation are one, where the persons come from, whether it's the turn of the north, the south, the southwest, the northwest, or the person's religion. Any country that determines its leadership based on these two main things, it's like cause and effect. You know, you can easily predict that that country will hardly get the best hands to run it. And those of us that think that we are part of the system by thinking that just by tweeting or by abusing someone in blogs and writing articles that you've done enough, you've not done enough. We've got to influence the system so that we don't find ourselves where we have to choose between options that we somehow collectively agree that are not good enough. But you can't choose somebody that is not participating in a beauty pageant as the winner of the beauty pageant. It has to be one of the people that participates. And one of the ways to make sure that the right people participate is to find a way to push the right people into the system. So if you haven't gotten it, make sure to get it. If you got a pirated copy, make sure to get the original. I'd like to say thank you to Chegwadeni. He sent me a signed copy and I'm very, very excited about that. Get it. Finally, what can you do with 50,000 naira? I'm asking this question because we had the small business support program in January where we gave out about 2.7 million naira to some 36 people. And one of the people that got 50,000, there were people that got 100,000, but one of the people that got 50,000 naira really, really impressed me. She shared her beauty products and what had changed between when she was doing her stuff and when she got the 50,000. And then I realized that this 50,000 naira actually goes a long way. So minus those of you that are very, very, very rich on Twitter and very, very, very tush and rich on Instagram, this one is for those that can do something with 50,000 naira. If you know something that you can do, I'm not saying school fees, because we have a program for school fees and all that. I'm not saying school fees, I'm not saying rent. Tell me how you can turn 50,000 naira into something that will make you get more 50,000 naira, so several more of that time. Tell me that maybe you're running a business and 50,000 naira will do this or that to her. Drop it in the comments on this video. Drop it in the comments on this video. I'm going to consider some of those comments according to their merits, according to the way people validate it. So how many people say yes, this person has actually been running this business? How many people say maybe go to like the page to say yes, they are trying to encourage you? Then make sure your comment does not exceed 200 words, because there's going to be a lot of comments to be read. So make sure your comment does not exceed 200 words. I, through the Omojuwa Foundation, will support as many of you with 50,000 naira. This one is different from the next edition of Small Business Support, which should come up either at the end of this month or at the beginning of next month. We're still trying to do some things behind the scenes. The omojuwafoundation.com is almost ready. It's about 90% ready. We are also setting up payment platforms for donations. We're also setting up platforms to be able to have prospective beneficiaries fill up forms to enter for the opportunity, either to get loans or to get grants. I should also let you know that there are other opportunities that are being offered by other people. I know, for instance, that Ubi Franklin, the CEO of Made Men Music Group, has about 5 million is giving out to businesses. So maybe you should check out his page on Instagram or on Twitter. I'm trying to support with that too, in terms of trying to make sure that we get the right people to support. So there is bad leadership, there is the challenge that comes with governance in Nigeria, in Africa, but there are also people that somehow, in spite of these realities, they've found a way to succeed. They found a way to make the best of the times and the opportunities they've had. For me, people like that should come out and support other people. I was in club recently and one of my friends, they gave him a bill of 200,000 and I was like, wow. Imagine if someone did that every Friday. That's about 1 million in a month. And there are people that do this. I mean, there are people that even spend 12 million at a go. I'm not saying don't have fun with your money. You've earned it. You've earned the right to party and have fun and chill. I do it sometimes. But let's not forget that there are also people that just need a bit of this money to make a headway in life. That's what I'm about right now. I mean, I've always been about that, but I'm trying to have a formal system to make it happen. And that's why the Omojuwa Foundation was set up to basically have an institutionalized way of doing these things we've done for about 6 or 7 years. So make sure you're part of it, either as a volunteer. I'm actually also a volunteer. I'm not part of the running, apart from bringing the money and also getting people to bring money. Make sure you volunteer. If you have resources, please come and be partners with us. If you have resources or you have a huge profile, come and be our ambassador. We also need people, professionals that will help us train people on how to not just make money, but to save money, to invest their money. Because we're bringing everything on board. We're also trying to make sure that in the midst of all these social problems, young people, secondary school students trying to rape when they should learn how to ask a girl out properly, to learn how to have relationships the right way. So we're going to have things in place that would help to culture, to groom young men, to groom young women, and to actually do our best to make society, our society, as good as possible. I wish you guys all the best. If you forget anything at all, never forget, I love you. Cheers.